Good afternoon and good morning to everybody out there. Thanks for joining our Sedaru Live webinar. Give folks a second to get situated here, and we will jump into things. Thanks for taking the time today, spending about 30 minutes with us. Today we're going to be talking about digital strategies for meter management, how you can use Sedaru and other tools to hopefully do a more efficient job at how you manage all the aspects of dealing with meters. And so we're going to hit on a few of these things, and hopefully share some interesting tidbits, interesting information with you. Like I said, the content should be about, overall about 30 minutes. We've got about 25 minutes of content, and then some time allotted for folks to be able to ask questions. We've got a good amount of new people on here today, so thanks for joining. But if you're new there and you haven't done a Zoom webinar yet, you'll notice a Q&A button in your interface there, and so use that Q&A button to go ahead and ask questions. These presentations are always more fun for everybody when we get some good questions that come in, so feel free to fire away with those. And as I'm going through the presentation and we're talking about things, we'll stop and get those questions answered. But I want you to get as much information as you can out of this session here. If you haven't already as well, make sure you follow us on social media. Go out on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, wherever you tend to use to kind of get information there. Look for Sedaru and follow us on those sites there. You'll get some good information from us and get notifications about upcoming webinars and future sort of virtual events that we're going to be doing, and other exciting news. Where does meter management kind of fit in this? We talk a lot about this drops spectrum, and what drops is that stepwise approach that helps a utility really think about how to implement groundbreaking technology, and most utilities are looking for evolutionary ways to be able to do that next thing, and drops is our framework to do that. So it starts here over on the left on thinking about how do I do things more digitally, right? How do I get rid of paper? And then from a real-time fashion, how can I do some of that, use that data immediately in real time? And then thinking about, once I have really sound ways to do that, then I get into the real fun stuff of where I can optimize and be more predictive and preemptive with the pieces that I'm doing. And so we're going to start by kind of talking over here on the digital side a little bit with meters, and then progress a little bit to the right here as well. And I think I'll show you some some interesting, some neat things that you can do within here as well. Meters in and of themselves are kind of interesting, right? If you joined us on Tuesday, I talked a little bit about what's the difference between horizontal and vertical assets, and kind of how we treat those differently from an asset management perspective. And meters are interesting because we often have to think about, and I'll throw another term at you, is what's the system of record for meters, right? So at one hand, meters are certainly an asset, right, that you can argue belong in your asset management system, and treat it like an asset, like you would a piece of pipe or a valve or a hydrant, or any of those kind of pieces there. What's interesting though too is that meters are linked to revenue for most water utilities, right? And they're also a really strong link to customer service and all of those pieces. And so you typically have customer service software, financial software for getting bills out, and some of those pieces that the meters have to really be linked to in there as well too. And so typically you'll see that meter be the sort of system of record for that meter is that financial system, which for the most part usually makes sense in most organizations. But we have to maintain that meter. We've got to change them out periodically. We've got all these kind of asset management oriented tasks. We've also got customer service oriented tasks. So it kind of sits in the middle of all those pieces here. And really one of the great things that Sedaru does is help kind of bring these things that sit in the middle of places, bring it together. And then we'll kind of throw a third piece in there that's in some cases made it more complicated is that you also have this idea of various kind of meter management systems, right? So whether I'm using like a full-blown MDM or I've got tools that are built in that come from my meter technology vendor, from the meter vendor right there, their specific technologies for being able to handle automated metering infrastructure, AMR, AMI type pieces too, that also mix in there. So we're going to talk about all that. And the short answer is that, you know, it can fit in a lot of different ways. And one of the things that we can help from a Sedaru perspective is help figure out, you know, sorting out all these different workflows for how to manage and maintain those things. So let's hop into the software. I want to start with the field software here. So I'm going to pull up my iPad here. Let's do that quickly here. You should see that pop up on your screen here momentarily. And I'm going to start in our Field Force application here. All right, so you should see that up on your screen. And so the Field Force application, which I could be running on a phone, I could be running on a laptop. I'm running it today off of my iPad. So you've got some flexibility in what device you're going to use. And this is what your folks in the field are going to use. And I like to start here because if you want to think about better digital workflows, especially for something like meter maintenance, it's got to start in the field, right? If you're sending out pieces of paper in the field to record that and then hoping or expecting that somebody's got to retype that stuff back in the office, you're already creating a lot of work and opportunities for error. And so the field perspective, the field, how you tackle the field issue is really, really important. And so those of you that have seen the Sedaru interface before will be kind of familiar with this. But what I have across the top on my iPad here is I've got tasks that have been assigned to me, right? So I've got 17 pipe or 7 dig ticket tasks, 18 pipe related tasks, et cetera, et cetera. And then I've got all these customer related tasks as well too. I'll touch on that tile and it zooms in on the map to the extent, shows me the location of all of those different items that have been assigned to me. I can, over on the right, kind of scroll through as well too and see the details of it. And you can customize all of these kind of pieces pretty easily as well too, so that it's going to show you, you know, very kind of specific information for what you're wanting to accomplish out in the field when it comes to managing that meter. And so I can drill into a specific item in here by using the map. I'm just using my fingers and just panning and zooming on the map, and I can drill right in there and see information. I've got the ability here too from the field application here. I'm just going to go ahead and touch on one of these meters, and I can see information about that particular meter. And this is up to you what information you want to display and you want to see here. We'll talk a little bit about how you can integrate some things here. I've got a couple things to show you towards the tail end here. But the device or the information that I'm looking at here on that panel on the right-hand side, it's really up to you what you want to display there, right? So this could be data that you're pulling in from a CIS, from a billing system, from your AMI piece, or from the GIS. And again, there's all kinds of strategies for how you want to pull that information, but it's up to you what you want to see, or really what you want to show your field staff so that they can have the tools in front of them to complete the work that they have. So let's go back to we'll go back to my my listing of work that I have here, and I can let's do one of these meter changeouts. I'm going to zoom into that location here. So you see here, I've got a street here that I've got a whole bunch of meter changeout tasks assigned for me to go ahead and complete. And so I can go ahead and I can choose on one of these. We'll choose the first one right on the street here. I can see the information about it, and then I'm just going to go ahead and hit start, and it's going to bring me right into my meter changeout form from here. And so what I find is really important with a lot of these tasks in the field is set them up so that your field staff can complete them as quickly as possible, as easily as possible, with as little typing as you can. So if you need to, if you need to capture 7 pieces of information, set your form up to do that. If you need to have, 20 pieces of information, do that, but really make sure, do I really need all those individual kind of pieces? So here I'm going to punch in the date when I'm doing this change out. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to put in my whatever the old read is on here, and then we're going to punch in the old meter serial number, and then we can come in here and fill out the rest of our form here. We'll choose our meter manufacturer in here. And again, all of these fields and everything you see is all 100% customizable. So there's a default library of Sedaru forms that you can be utilized, or you can completely customize these things yourself. So we'll put a serial number in here. We're going to put in a register number. We have folks, and you can also as well set this up so that it will work with a barcode scanner. So typically what you do, like with an iPad, you can Bluetooth connect the barcode scanner to your to the iPad and use that as the input in there, and do that automatically. And so that tends to work really well too, because certainly you've got an opportunity there to get rid of some errors from a data entry perspective. Then we can go ahead and grab a picture. Let's go ahead and we'll do that. Grab the camera here. Let's take a picture right of the drops that's on my other monitor there that you were just looking at. So we'll put that in there. And typically, again, on a meter changeout, you might want to grab 2, 3, 4 different photos, right? Depending on what it is, right? Maybe you grab, maybe you're grabbing a picture of that last read verification. Because one of the things that always happens on meter changeouts, right? Or not always, but if you have really, really delayed a meter changeout program and you've got a lot of inaccurate meters in the field, and now you throw this new meter in, chances are people are going to get higher bills than what they've been accustomed to paying. And you're going to be dealing with a lot of customer service calls around this and saying, hey, what's going on here? And so really being able to kind of double, triple verify that last read and have that documentation to show people and to do some of that can be really beneficial on your end. So grab however many pictures you want. I could come in here and put time, equipment, materials in if I wanted to from here. So I could log my time. I'll put some time for myself in here. Say I was here for, this is an hour. So we'll say 45 minutes, 3/4 of an hour to complete that task. And again, I find this is also really beneficial too if you are using a third-party contractor to do meter changeouts for you as well. You can have all these things kind of set up, all the data that you want to capture, all those pieces of that. And then as a utility, you can provide them with the Sedaru licensing and they can complete that. And you can track all the activities associated with that as well too. And immediately kind of get some of that data back also. So monitor progress, et cetera. And now let me just go ahead and save this. And now you're going to see it turns green on the map, right? It's going to show me exactly what's been completed. The attachment that I just put in there is automatically uploaded. And then I now have an asset history associated with that as well too that shows me when that was completed. And that's part of that when we're talking about getting into real-time strategies and how do you want to do that. I think about how many times, meter changeout perspectives you can, again, if you're trying to do this with a piece of paper and you're having to have all this stuff written down, that stuff's going into the truck, that's getting handed off to somebody else who's got to, re-enter those things. And if I'm doing dozens of these in the course of the week, being able to quickly on the map see who's been completed, who hasn't, and to have it automatically can be really beneficial to folks in here. So that's kind of how the field piece works in there. Like you said, it's designed to try to be as simple as possible on some of this. So one of the questions that popped in here is, can existing information be pre-populated? Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great question, right? So I could, if I was, and I don't know, let me see if I've got a good example of something. I'm not sure that I do, but I'm going to come in and just touch on one of these meters. Here, I picked this meter here. I've got a bunch of information. And you see here, I then hit the start screen on this. I didn't have a pre-assigned work order, right, for this particular meter, right? This could just be, I noticed something in the field, I need to do it, or I get a phone call from a customer service rep that says, hey, can you check something out for me? And you didn't actually create like an official work order, and I just need to go in and complete those things. I can go ahead and do some of that. And so I've got a whole bunch of different types of activities that I couldn't hear. And I don't know if any of these pre-populate or not, but I don't know, we'll grab one here. So investigate, no, it doesn't. But so yes, but in general, I can take some of these forms and they can set it up so that if I wanted to pre-populate, MIUs or those, or serial numbers or that stuff, I could. If I had customer information that I wanted to pre-populate, other data, all that can be set up, and that's just kind of part of the configuration of the mobile piece in here. The other thing I'll bring your attention to in the mobile piece too is you see where in the bottom right-hand corner where it's of the map where it says live. So this will also work from this will also work in an offline mode as well too. So again, depending on your cell connectivity and how whatever the area is that you're working in, you've got the ability to run this completely offline, which can be helpful for a lot of folks. Yeah, no, so another good question that popped in here in terms of if like on a meter changeout, you can't get it completed for whatever reason, right? Yeah, you could certainly, and there's a couple different ways to kind of tackle that issue. The most common way would be to have a meter changeout form that has a little bit more fields to collect on there, and I might have a status on there, right? Is it completed? Is it not completed? Is it in progress? That kind of thing. And then I'll show you in the office piece how I could go ahead and kind of see, oh, hey, here's all the meter changeouts that were started but not completed, and I know I've got to go back to them and all those pieces. So that's fairly easy to do. Another question, how do you export the data collected from the meter changeout? I'll show you that here in a second when we go in the office piece. And then somebody asked, what's the water drop symbol near the meters on the screen? Yeah, good question. That actually is a leak that's been recorded in that area. So one of the things that you can use with Sedaru is to record leaks. And so if you have like a leak investigation that's going on or you're doing some of those things yourself, you can actually use Sedaru for that. Or it can also pull in data from third-party pieces in here as well too. So I can come in and I'll scroll over here on the leak side of things, and so I touch on this particular leak, and I can actually come in here and see or complete a leak investigation from there as well too. So, and that's kind of gives to the nature of sort of the broader set of things you can do with Sedaru beyond just hitting and talking about meters there. So let's hop into the office side of things a little bit here, and I'll show you what that looks like. Let me stop sharing my screen on the iPad and come back to my computer here. All right, and let's see here a second. All right, so what we're looking at here now, this is what we call Sedaru Omni. Sedaru Omni is going to be generally your office application, right? So it's still running from a web browser, but it's designed to be the tool you're going to use in the office to see information. And I'm going to show you a couple different example sites. At a simple level, like if we're going back to kind of thinking about our meter changeout program, you see I've got the GIS within here, and I can come in here and I can see that same kind of GIS map and information I was looking at in here before. I could go and I could click on one of these meters, see information around it. So I've got this customer here. If I wanted to go ahead and I wanted to select a whole bunch of meters to do things, I can do that. So here I'm just going to draw a box around things. And that's actually going to select a whole bunch of different assets for me. So you see I've got valves selected and hydrants and streets and customers, but customers are really what I want to do here. And so I've got a whole bunch of folks here that, again, we'll say here for a meter changeout perspective, I want to assign to. And I can come here and say meter changeout, and then I'm going to assign it to myself. And so I'll come in here, click assign, And now that's going to automatically create those work orders for me. So scheduling of some of those things is pretty straightforward, and can be done in a kind of selecting right from the map. I also have the ability to use these performance tiles up here to do some other things. And let me show you a couple other examples here. And the let's see here. So I've got up here, you can see is a different system that we're looking at, and I've got a few different the different meter related tasks that are in here that are part of this tile here. And let me so what's interesting here is the meter system that's here is actually linked directly, in this case is linked directly to their Neptune AMI information. And so the information that comes out of Neptune actually flows directly into Sedaru, and so they can use that to kind of manage and look at different pieces, different things that are going on. So I can come in here and I can see where have I installed meters in the past 30 days, right? And so I've got that listing here. As I move my mouse over things, there's a little yellow dot that'll move around the screen here. So you see it's kind of in the middle of the screen right now. Just moved over to the right a little bit as I move my, and so I can see all those things that have been completed. I can see information around it. I also, if I scroll back over here, you see that I've got 4 reads that are past 30 days, past due reads, right, that haven't been completed. And so I can click on that, and now it's going to bring me right to the location of those, right? And so we can see right on the map the location of those 4. Okay, and if I scroll out, I can kind of see, okay, where is that in the rest of my system, right? So in this case, this is like an AMI system they've got collectors up. So, this is at the very edge of town. So it might be a case of where that collector coverage is a little bit spotty there, and being able to figure some of that out. So, but it's great because I can see it right on the map. But then what it's done is it's also selected those for me. So if I wanted to come in here and now schedule something, right? I wanted somebody to come in and schedule and say, hey, I'm going to go have, Sarah or Bob go do that past due read. I can come in here and say past due read, and I'm going to go ahead and assign that to somebody in here to go take care of and to do that, complete that task for me. And then that's going to automatically show up on their device, which is pretty cool. Let me hit a couple other questions here. Let's see. The ability to back populate installation data. Yeah. Yep. So good question. Yep. So basically the question is can I automatically, like this meter changeout information, can that data be automatically transferred? And the short answer is, yeah, it certainly can. So there's a couple, and that kind of relates to the other question around exporting information. So, like my meter installs here for the past 30 days that are on this list here. So one of the things I can do is all of this new meter information, I can have it selected in here. And I could then come in here, and in the lower right-hand corner where this little report icon is, I can actually come in, and that's going to actually generate an Excel file for me that's going to have all of that information that I collected out in the field and have it right from there. So that way, if I was just going to manually take this data and import it into my billing system, I could do it right from there. Okay. So that's kind of the manual way to do it. That's typically like for like a meter changeout program sometimes, and things along those lines. Sometimes that's just the best way to do it. It's a little lower tech, right? The other thing that can be done is to link all of this directly, is to link all these things directly to your billing system. And let me show you a different, I'm going to show you a different example of that here. I'm going to switch to a different site. And what's interesting here, so in this case, this site, what's happened is here is that this is actually linked, Sedaru is actually linked to their CIS system. So instead of linking it to the meter system, we're linking it to the CIS system. So now customer complaints that are getting logged into the CIS system now just go directly into here. Their information around disconnects and turn-ons and turn-offs, all of that goes directly into here. And same idea is if I do a meter change out, that's going to flow back directly into that system as well too. So if I click here on this customer service task here, these 15 open customer service tickets that you see along the right-hand side were not manually entered into Sedaru. They actually, I think in this case it's the Tyler Encode product, but we've done Munis integrations and others. I can come in here, it's actually getting generated from Munis, and then when that item gets completed or taken care of, it's writing directly back to Munis. So the ability to do that can be set up right in here pretty easily. It just depends on the system, and then there's always cases of figuring out the workflow and process and some of that, which is, you know, can sometimes take a little bit of time, but can be generally straightforward. In this case, also you see here, like they are managing all their disconnect cycles in here. You know, right now, obviously, you know, almost no water utility in the country is actually doing disconnects. So you see the numbers are, you know, showing up as 0 there, but they can do that right through there. And again, what's nice about this, because we're talking about a real-time connection to the CIS system, is when somebody pays their bill last minute and does some of those things, those sort of pieces can be automatically reflected in there. All right, let's hit some of these questions. A whole bunch of questions in here that I want to make sure we address. So let's see. Instead of assigning to a single person, can you click a team without picking? Yeah, so you can do a couple things there. So you can assign it to an individual person, like I showed. I can select multiple people within there as well too. And then coming soon, we've got a fairly substantial update to this Omni software that's going to come out over the summer. And that is going to introduce into Sedaru the concept of teams. So I can kind of define teams or groups of people into things. And then there's a whole bunch of additional kind of flexibility that'll come with that piece in there as well too. So it's really, there's a lot of flexibility coming there for that. Yeah, another question was how can you distinguish between potable and recycled meters? So really good question. I mean, and in general, let me zoom in and we'll just take a look here. A lot of that's just going to come down to how you're going to display and show information at a particular place. And so when I zoom in here, you're going to see I've got different items in here. So I've got that I'm showing off of the map here. And so here's 1 meter that's right here. And then I've got a second one that's right next to it. The most common way that I've seen people be able to differentiate things like that is to just use different symbology on the map initially, right? So maybe my meters for my purple pipe system, I show them in purple here, right? For my recycled water system, and then my potable water, you know, has a different color associated with it. And then you're just going to use whatever attributes, you're going to use attributes to go ahead and be able to flag that and to show it up in the data as well too. So you can be able to, you can do that pretty, there's a lot of flexibility in how you want to display and look at those pieces there. Another question is what CIS billing systems is Sedaru able to link with? Really good question. So in general, so there's a couple that we have really good support for because they have well built out APIs and that we have previously done work with it. You know, one of it is Tyler Encode. We have multiple Munis projects going on right now where we're integrating Sedaru to Munis. That does require though, so Munis is actually in the process of rolling out a new API that we've been working together jointly with them on. So we're pretty excited about that on the Munis front. We're doing another project that's integrating with the Harris AUS system. And it's a little tricky because these CIS systems have been a lot of acquisition and kind of combining of technologies. And so those are all done through supported APIs. And then we've done a lot of one-way kind of integrations as well too, where we can do a little lower tech methods on those as well too. And it doesn't require a full API on that CIS system. Because one of the tricky things with billing and CIS systems is you might hate the billing and CIS system that you have. And if you do, it's not an easy thing for you to just be able to say, hey, let's go ahead and swap that out, right? I mean, finance swap changes, those finance billing system, licensing and implementation, they're often $1 million projects for folks. So it takes a lot of budget and get them there. So we can help tie into a lot of existing ones. But it's always just, let's have a conversation about the details of that and figure out the best way to tackle that. Let's see, we're running out of time here. I've got a couple more questions we're gonna get answered in here, and then I will send folks on their way. So if you've got another question, then go ahead and get it in here. So another question, is there an inventory management module within Sedaru, or are you integrated with any inventory management software? So yeah, good question. So a couple things I can do there. One, and I should have showed you in the Field Force application, when I was completing that meter changeout, I can list labor, equipment, material in there, right? I think I just put labor in there for my time, but I could certainly pull a meter from my equipment that's going in there, log exactly what meter type it was, et cetera. And then Sedaru is going to keep track of what was the inventory, what was used, right? Today, Sedaru doesn't function as a full-blown inventory management, other than I can kind of track everything that's being used, and to do that, I can then, but I do have the ability, and the software's got the ability to hook into a billing system with inventory pieces in there as well too. So part of like the Munis integration, one of the things that you have the ability to do is if I'm tracking all of my meters in Munis or tracking my inventory, I can actually have a decrement from that inventory in my CIS system. Just takes a little more work to set up, and again, you get into some workflow issues and how you're going to handle some of those things. But yeah, the hooks are all there within Sedaru to be able to do that. And then the one question that's it's still showing us not answered, but that was back around exporting data collected from the meter changeout. So yeah, I can do that directly from this Omni application and be able to see exactly what's been done. And let me show you here, because one of the things, I think I could show you from here. So like if I go to this trend view as well too, the trend view is pretty cool because it shows me, so here I can see all my meter installs in the last 30 days, and I can create a report right from here that's going to export all that data out to Excel. So here is, meter installs. I can see, we can take this out to the last, 6 months now and see exactly what that looks like. And have all that same thing, kind of create a report right from there. And there's some different ways to do that piece in there. Well, good. Thanks everybody for your time today. Lots of really good questions. I think, again, as you get into these meter workflows and how you want to handle some of these things, there's so many ways that you can kind of skin the cat. And we're really happy to have those conversations with you and help you kind of figure out what's the right solution for you and what's going to make the most sense. So everybody that attended the webinar today, you're going to get a follow-up email from us. You might get a phone call checking in to see if we answered all your questions. So feel free to kind of fire back at us with a lot of those questions or your thoughts or specific problems that you're trying to tackle at your utility, and we're happy to work with you on all of those going forward. And then we've got more webinars scheduled for next week. And then I think this week we're going to be publishing another set of like 6 or so webinars that we're going to kind of keep doing here for the foreseeable future. So we look forward to having you join us on those and to keep sharing all the good information around Sedaru. Thanks everybody. Stay safe out there, and we look forward to talking to you soon.